Rich Vellante, I'm the executive chef of Legal Seafoods, and we're here at Legal Harborside this morning, and we're going to be shucking Wiano oysters. Now, the beauty of Wiano oysters are a few things. Number one is they're handled so well in the growing season and how they grow them so that the cup is beautiful. So from a shucker's standpoint, it's easier to use. They're easier to open, and so you don't have a lot of problems with broken shells and things of that nature. So as you can see, it bevels down below, and that's what holds all the liquor of the oyster, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we eat oysters. On this oyster also, it's very, very clean, and you can see the growth patterns of the oyster. It grows in these different levels. You can see these different striations as it grows bigger and bigger and bigger. So this part right here is really the nail, and what the nice part is with what they do at Wiano is they tend to roll this part so that it's not fragile, so the liquor doesn't leave the oyster. So to open the oyster, you want to turn it upside, the flat side up. And for me, what I like to do is I focus on this hinge right here, because the oyster has a hinge that I can get my knife into in this area. And with these Wiano oysters, it's very, very clean. Some other oysters, you'll see it'll be very fragile in this area. It'll be dirty. There'll be a lot of shrapnel with the shell breaks easily. But with the Wianos, they seem to be very uniform. And as you can see, all of these oysters here are very uniform. Now, what I want to do is I realize that the oyster's inside and it connects right here, and it also connects on the bottom. So the goal for myself is to not get cut. So I have a glove here that prevents me from getting cut with the knife. And so I like to use the leverage of the surface. And so what I'll do is I'll cover some of the oyster with a towel, and I'll put a little bit of pressure in this area. And what I'm doing is getting my knife into this area. And you see how I pop the hinge, and you can see that I'm separating the top part of the oyster. Now I realize I don't want to insert my knife too far in, because that will damage the flesh of the oyster. I also mentioned earlier that it's connected here. None of the oyster is connected in this area. So I'm not interested in running my knife there. What I am interested in getting my knife in this area here. And I'm holding my knife at a 45-degree angle, so I'm staying away from the flesh of the oyster. So I've severed it on the top part of the oyster, and that's where it came clean. Now remember, I mentioned how it connects, and that's the area where it connects. So what I'm also concerned about too is the shell. I don't want to get a lot of shell in the oyster. So now I have my clean oyster here, but you also have to remember that it's still connected to the shell. So what I need to do is to run a clean knife around the bottom, and that's all I need to do. Now remember, I mentioned early on the cup. The cup of these Wiano oysters will hold that liquor. Some other oysters are straight flat across, and they don't hold that liquor. So as you can see, it's very moist, and the oyster is whole, and that is the essence of a shucked oyster. So that's how we shuck the Wiano oysters, and now let's go and look at how we present them and also